What's going on, everybody?
What's up?
What's up?
We got a wild one tonight, I feel like.
Oh, man, we're going to be mildly reverent and particularly rebellious tonight.
And I need to be rebellious, too. Titans season ended.
Oh, my God.
Washington lost, man. I was rooting for you, Peter.
Washington they embarrassed themselves.
I was really rooting for you.
Oh, man, my Huskies. It was just, I had high hopes.
Well,
High hopes until the third quarter. That's the thing. We all need to sing a rousing chorus of Rocky Mountain High.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's
little Joe Walsh. All right. I dig it.
No, Joe Walsh is Rocky Mountain Way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
John Denver is Rocky Mountain High.
Yeah, I prefer John Walsh.
Yeah.
Joe Walsh.
John Walsh.
Joe Walsh.
John Walsh is Joe's brother. He never quite made it this big.
John Walsh is America's Most Wanted, wasn't it?
I don't even remember.
I don't know. Was he that guy?
I think he was.
Maybe it would be Bob Denver, because then we could talk about Gilligan.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so this is everybody put your gummies down, because we're gonna talk about this is part 2 of our taboo series.
This is a fun series.
It really is.
How many episodes do you think we're gonna do?
I don't know. I feel like we could go a while.
Why do we have so many taboos, Ben? I don't know why.
You know.
Before we go any further, click the like button, thumbs up. Jacob Chandler, thank you for the comment. We really appreciate it.
You are the man.
We wish you would talk more people into voting us.
Yes.
Appreciate Alan commenting. Him and Bubba both. We like all the comments.
Jacob Chandler, in case you don't know, he wins my weekly award for the most outlandish, creative, hilarious TikToks that he posts on social media.
I haven't seen his TikToks.
Oh my! You need to.
I will have to.
You would love them. And some of them, it's like I have to laugh at them in private.
Preacher can't laugh at that.
If anybody knew I thought it was funny, they probably would have something to say about it.
He always has some good memes on Facebook. I do appreciate a good meme.
You need to get into his reels and stories.
I will.
That's all I got to say.
Hey, and I'm going to warn everybody. I told them I'll try to not cough 900 times. There's a mute button, so if you see me hitting a button, I'm muting myself so I can cough. Because stupid cough.
And Logan wants you to know that these are cough drops, not gummies.
These are non-THC containing. Yes, that's right.
Exactly.
So
they would work better if they had something else in them.
Yes.
All right, before we get started, Peter, you got to tell us a joke.
Oh, yes. This one is a little bit esoteric.
All right.
I don't know what esoteric means, but all right.
It's okay. No, maybe I already told this one. Oh, man, my brain.
Oh, I think you need something to enhance your...
I think I do.
You need some nootropics.
I need some nootropics. No, we'll talk about that later. I don't know. Did I tell the one about the termite who hopped into a bar?
I don't know.
Termite hops into a bar and says, "Is the bartender here?"
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, the bartender.
All right.
Yeah.
So I need to think of another one then. Okay. This one, it's a little bit lame, but it's real classic dad joke.
All right.
Why couldn't the bike move?
I don't know.
Because he was too tired.
Nice.
Too tired.
I appreciate the cheesy ones.
Yeah,
I do too.
That one's particularly
classic
cheesy.
dad.
That one is.
Yeah.
And also too, I don't know about Logan, but Kaylee, I'm gonna publicly apologize to you about Michael Bublé. I'm gonna jump off your guy. I know you're a big fan.
All right. Well, I am going to hold my ground. Michael Bublé is terrible.
But Michael Bublé is, I don't know if I would like to have his discography, but I'd like to have his bank account.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Even the musicians I hate have way better bankrolls than me.
Yeah, I will say, as much as I don't enjoy Michael Bublé, he probably has quite a few more zeros in his bank account than I do.
I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
Plus, he's Canadian. Did you know that?
I didn't, but it seems fitting. He seems like he's a Canadian. Yeah.
Yes, he's a Canadian version of Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Well, maybe it is.
Yeah.
Hey. Maple syrup.
Yeah. So we're getting into the Mary Jane.
Yes, we are the weed.
Yeah.
How many? You know what I actually wish I'd have looked up?
What?
And I'm going to Google it right now. Y'all go ahead and chat. I don't want to reveal this yet. This ought to be.
Okay.
I feel like this is a stat that we need to share.
So we're going to talk about marijuana We're going to talk about psychedelics. We're going to talk about mushrooms. We're going to talk, and we're going to get into a little surprise topic toward the end. So you want to stick around to the end because it's very thought provoking and something we probably need to be thinking about. But the question that we have to ask ourselves is, okay, so as Christians, we believe that drug use is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Even in society generally, even among, people who do not claim faith of any kind,
Yeah.
drug use is seen to be, for the most part, negative.
It's
Yeah.
usually frowned upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was gonna see how many songs do you think are written about marijuana?
Oh, God.
Oh.
And apparently it is like what is the verse? It's like the sand, the number of sand on the beaches or something like.
Yeah.
Like it apparently is so
Yeah.
many that there's not even a
Yeah,
stat.
you can't
Wow.
even pick a decade. You just got to pick a year.
Yeah.
So-
So
So we're talking thousands of songs written just about marijuana.
there was a playlist when I just Googled that it said 420 songs about marijuana.
I always go back to Tom Petty.
Yeah.
That's-
Last Dance.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Oh, come on. That's not about marijuana.
No.
No. Really?
Yeah.
hey,
Okay.
if you encompassed all drugs, I bet
Oh,
it'd
my
be
gosh.
thousands. It would be
Oh,
thousands.
yeah. Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, for sure.
what's the Lucy in the Sky with
Lucy
Sky
in the
with
Sky with
Diamonds?
Diamonds.
Diamonds,
Yeah.
LSD.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
But I mean, you can go back to the 1800s for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there
For
were
sure.
songs, and especially like the early 1900s when people discovered cocaine and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it was going along back there. In fact, there's a podcast that I listened to for 2 years, and it's inactive right now. I think he's working on another season, but it's called Cocaine and Rhinestones.
I've listened to some of
Nice.
that. That is a good one.
Have you listened to the theme song on that?
I don't think I've paid attention to it, to be honest with you.
It is a song about cocaine. I mean,
Okay.
it just says,
Because it's country music guys
Yeah.
that are into the drug world.
oh, they were, yeah, for sure.
It is, and it's kind of, it reminds, did you ever listen to Disgraceland?
No.
All right, it's kind of, they kind of remind me of each other,
Okay.
but it's kind of the same. But yeah, cocaine and
That might be
rhinestones.
something we talk about in the taboo subjects too.
Country music.
No. What defines a drug? Because like,
Yeah.
Well-
because
yeah.
like Elvis, for example, he didn't think he was a drug user because they were prescribed to him by a doctor. He was
That's
just
right.
taking medicine.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And of course we find out it's amphetamines and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well,
So
yeah.
I think that we can probably, I mean, obviously the negative effects of drug use and mostly because it leads to addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the negative effects are pretty well documented.
All right, we can challenge that real quick.
All right.
Or bring up a point that I didn't think about in our last episode.
Okay.
And the addiction is the point that was brought up. And now this was their thing specifically targeting tobacco
Oh,
was addiction. And
That's a
that's
good
what
point.
they said. If you become, I mean, you can become addicted to alcohol, obviously.
yeah.
But they were like, tobacco users are addicted to tobacco and the nicotine from the tobacco. And so they're like, at that point, when it becomes an addiction, how is it not wrong?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of taking a part of you. And I mean, I enjoy some chewing tobacco from time to time. I dipped for many years, and I can honestly say I was addicted to dipping. And it was the point, like I'd get done eating dinner. I wanted to go put a dip in. If I went on a long ride, I'd put a dip in. Like I was truly addicted. So like, what would you say to that? Like, is it, when it becomes an addiction, is it wrong? That's where it gets kind of sticky a little bit.
I agree.
To me.
I agree.
I had not thought about that.
But can you not get addicted to like,
Diet Dr. Pepper. Guilty.
Don't be meddling.
I'm telling you, I'm guilty.
But like endorphins that you get from running and
Yeah.
Probably.
yeah.
But that was kind of one of the things I saw. It was like, I don't remember who said it, but they mentioned if it's an addiction.
Yeah. And also too, it's silly to say, but You know, like we all have to eat to survive, but
Yeah.
there's definitely people out there who's addicted to cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
You know, that's their
Or sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think when it comes to addiction, I really think it comes down to we get hung up on that word addiction. You know, and it's really about intention.
Yeah.
That I really think is the focus that we need to be on. What is your intention of doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Is it to overeat? Because let's face it, like we all have had that really good piece of cake that was so good and you're full, but you're like, I'm finishing this sucker.
Oh yeah.
You know,
for sure.
we've all got to that point. And I think it's the same thing with drinking. We talked about the other night, you know, so there's a lot of people who can have a drink and call it good, but there's
Yeah.
some people that one's not enough and 100 is not too many.
Yeah.
You know, I think really it is just the intention and the level of control. Over
Well, but also, don't you think? And I think this speaks to your point that we're told not to be a slave to anything.
Yeah. And see,
Yeah.
and that's how I was. I was a slave to dip.
Well, there you go. So I imagine that you could say that that would not be a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Yeah.
but then you could put it into the same category as a lot of other things
Yeah.
as well. But the thing about some of these, you know, much more hardcore kinds of drugs, the cocaines and the heroines and things like that, is the process of getting addicted is the same, but the consequence
worse.
Yeah.
is so much worse.
Yes.
Like if I'm addicted to coffee, which clearly I'm not, I can stop at any time.
No one will like you.
Exactly. Then, you know, I mean, if I have to have 2 pots of coffee every day, what's the consequence of that?
Yeah.
You know,
You're just spending a little more extra money at the grocery store.
and I'm smarter than everybody around me.
That's right. That's right. You're more motivated.
Super
I was
motivated.
gonna
That's
say
what I
very
was at.
motivated.
But I mean, the worst thing that could happen is, you know, if I was super addicted and I didn't get it that day,
Yeah.
that would be
You'd have a
terrible. So
headache.
I'd be a grump. Yeah. But if you're addicted to heroin, that can be the end of your life.
Yes.
And you know
Yeah.
what? That's something we should talk about as well is chemical dependency.
Right.
You've never heard of anyone coming off coffee and going into like straight up body locking up
Yeah.
and shutting down and killing
Right.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like that, the chemical dependency is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's people that's been on pain medication for years and they cannot come off of it or they'll die.
Well, you know, and you see this in like the hospital when you have drug babies.
Yes.
And they
for
have
sure.
the mothers
Born
have them,
addicted.
and they
Yeah.
have to actually give the children, you know, they have to give the baby. I think they give them morphine to basically wean them off because, I mean, yeah, it sends them crazy.
Those sinful babies.
Yes, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
How did they get addicted?
Exactly.
yep,
So that's kind of the setup for the first part of our taboo number 2,
Right.
and that is marijuana. Now, this is a kind of a unique situation because it's now legal in I think it's 22 states.
yeah.
I think it's 22. It might be more. now.
Decriminalized and more.
That's it. If you get busted for it, you don't hardly get busted for
Is
it,
it
right?
federally decriminalized across the country?
Don't know.
If it's
Yeah.
not, it soon will be.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's all natural.
And
It's organic.
the Lord put it there.
well, I mean, we have to ask that question, though, don't we?
Yes, you do.
I mean,
because
God
that's often the argument.
Created all the plants. It
Yep.
says it right there in the first couple chapters of Genesis. He created all of them. So clearly, this is a plant.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about it. Well, and even the basis of cocaine. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
the
coca
coca
plant.
leaves. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, isn't heroin? Is that poppy?
Yep, opium.
Oh, yeah.
Comes from opium.
Even that could be natural.
Okay, so how do we? Well, okay, before we get too far into that, let's say also that marijuana users claim that it is not addictive.
I was going to say that. But all right, but when do you differentiate a habit versus an addiction?
Or is it a physical addiction or a psychological addiction?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot of things we can get psychologically addicted to. Social
Yeah.
media is probably the worst offender these
Yep.
days.
Yeah, I mean, in the 80s, it was television.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do we untangle this and kind of drill down as to, how we feel about this spiritually or morally or ethically? Because yes, the plant is the plant. And honestly, You don't have to smoke the plant to get the effect of the plant. You can eat the plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can combine it with other things. And
Man, I bet that tastes terrible.
it probably, we were talking, we're going to get into this a little bit more, but it's like, who was the first person in the caveman days to go,
Tried it.
that looks like a good plant.
Yeah, they smelled it. They're like, smells kind of like a skunk.
Yeah,
Let me try this out.
exactly. Yeah, we ate a skunk last week. We didn't like that, did we? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's not addictive. Doesn't necessarily cause aggressive behavior. They say that there are very few cases of people getting busted for driving under the influence of weed.
You can't overdose on it, I think, supposedly.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some people who maybe
Pretty blazed out of their mind.
might defy that description.
Also too, that I hear the comment too. People don't react violently on it.
That's what I've heard too.
Unless you eat the last bowl of cereal or whatever they're.
You got their munchy
steal
food.
their Doritos.
Yeah. There was a comedian is like, it doesn't make you go out and commit crime. It makes you eat macaroni out of a big green bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's one side of the argument that says, well, hey, and if it's legal, I mean, aren't we allowed to do things that are legal?
See, and I feel like that's when you can really get into some sticky territory.
You're splitting hairs.
Man, and I'm not opening this can of worms yet. I feel like we might can have this on episode at some point, but what about in a state like the same people that argue that could say, well, it's legal to perform abortions.
Yeah, I know.
This state, gay marriage is legal here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the legality of it doesn't determine my view as from a faith base.
Yeah,
it can't. There's too many things that are legal that are not.
Yeah,
it's legal to go sleep around, with anybody you want to.
And God's not going to say, well, you're not sinning in Tennessee, but you are in Texas.
Yes.
I don't think the boundaries are going to really matter.
Good point.
Are you a Christian first or an American first?
Christian all the way.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So where do we come in with the difference between? We talked about wine and we talked about distilled spirits and alcohol, and how we kind of landed in the place of the Bible doesn't condemn those things.
They're great.
Well, wine is often called a blessing from God.
That's right. There you go.
Okay, and
there's no joy where there is no wine.
That's it. And grapes are obviously clearly fruits off of plants.
That's right.
I think the first thing we should talk about is, can you moderate how much marijuana you ingest? So we're going to go back to this verse we quoted in Ephesians. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery.
Yeah. Instead,
be filled with the Spirit. Can we say, do not overdo marijuana because it causes lethargy? I don't know. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. Yeah. I mean, does the same principle apply, or is there a different dynamic going on here?
I don't feel like you can just smoke a little weed and not get high.
Or what degree of high would be considered on the plant? Like as a complete, I can say I can't speak from experience on the highness. Yeah. So is there a somewhat sober level of high? Like, you get a buzz from drinking a little bit. Can you smoke just enough to get a little buzz?
In my experience, yes, I used to experiment.
How dare you, Pat?
But I never was like, oh, I'm just a little.
Yeah, that's enough. Let's stop here.
Yeah. No, it was like, and you're there.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a switch. And so I'm like, you can't just smoke a little pot.
Yeah.
You smoke a little pot, you're high.
But what if you just eat a little gummy and go to bed?
It's the same principle. Well, I don't know. I've never messed with the edibles, but
see, I guess, and that is one thing I can say. I have had the edibles.
Okay.
I was telling you guys off air, I got a buddy of mine who's got the medical grade THC honey.
Yeah.
And he ate it, and I asked him, I said, so what happened? He said, I woke up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, thank you.
Well, that's
like,
what
I can't.
The Delta 8s, like they were for sleep.
Yeah.
And I told y'all, I said I ate half of one and I felt nothing. And then the only other time I tried another one, again, it was always for sleep. I never would sleep. And then I was just very paranoid. And then I didn't sleep and I was paranoid. So like that is my experience with them.
So it worked then.
I guess so. But
now the Delta 8s, they have a tiny little bit of
I think it's like 0.03%.
So,
THC.
so for novices out there, we're so worldly wise.
Yeah.
It's the THC in the marijuana that makes so you could technically extract THC out of a marijuana plant, and it would instantly do the trick, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you can get straight THC, can't you?
I don't know.
Can't you
I hope
vape?
not.
No, I'm thinking now on the vape things, you can get like THC.
I think you're right.
Oh, what do they call
right.
it? Is it DAP? A DAP pen? I think it is.
DAP
don't
like
know.
the thing they do? I thought DAP
That's
was
DAB.
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 With the
Man,
B.
dang it. I'm not so hip, guys.
Yeah. Then again, I'm not hip either because I'm trying to figure out what's what.
Yeah. No cap.
So here's the other side of it. Okay, what I think is first of all, it does come back to the intent, just like what you said.
Yeah.
If the intent is to alter your state of mind, to get outside of yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the effect is essentially instantaneous and irreversible until it wears off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're on that train.
So you're taking a substance for one reason and one reason only, and that's just everything behind your intent. Would you say that's right?
Absolutely. I've never in my life been in the circles I used to run with. Never would you hear the phrase, "Oh, well, I got stuff to do later. I'm just going to smoke a little."
Yeah.
Or you know what? Yeah, let me see what that tastes like, and I'm gonna be good. No, everyone said let's blaze.
Yeah.
We're getting high. That's what we're doing. We're getting high. That's the intention. If you smoke marijuana for any other reason other than get high, I'm fairly confident I can call you a liar to your face.
Unless you have a medical condition.
So does it not get you high still?
I don't know because I'm not in those conditions.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
I guess it would.
Of course it does.
That's what I was going to ask, because you got now, there's a lot of stuff that's come out now, like we talked about with anxiety.
Yeah.
But then there's also, I've heard of cancer patients that have like pain from, I guess, either the treatment or the cancer. And they say it like helps them with the pain. So,
Well, and I've also heard that it helps them to be able to eat
yeah.
because you get so nauseous and everything else like that. So then the marijuana can help them settle their system so they
Gotcha.
can eat.
So how do you handle it then?
Well, see, and this is my point on that, is because with my back, when I got out of the Army, they put me on 120 Vicodin a month.
Ooh.
A month. These are 10 milligrams. This is 40 milligrams of Norco a day.
Yeah.
And when I started machining, I went to the VA. I was like, I can't take this. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna fall into this lathe and get
turned
ate up.
into ground meat.
It's like, I can't do this. And so their solution was, well, do you want Percocet instead? I was like, no. I was like, I can't do that. And when I finally got off the medication and just went to Tylenol, I realized it never did anything for my pain. It just made me high enough to not care about it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. That's where we get into these other gray areas, because what about pain medication?
Right.
Which is better, a synthetic pain medication or a plant?
Yep. And again, I'm never going to tell anybody, if you're hurting, don't go get medication. That's not my lane.
No, it's not for any of us to say.
But I think this is part of me as a farmer. I've wrestled with this kind of hippie side to me.
Yeah.
If you believe it, with the beard and the long hair. But
Country boy can survive.
That's right.
Yeah.
But there is a part of me that's like, man, I don't know. When you get to if you have a natural solution to something or a natural help versus a synthetic, if they're like, you got to take, like, say, a whatever Vicodin or something, or man, you smoke a joint sometimes and hold, like, I would honestly probably be more inclined to smoke a joint.
And I'll tell you too, I have two options with my back pain. Like, I have permanent nerve damage to my sciatic nerve.
Yeah.
My two options are hurt or take drugs.
Yeah.
That's my two options.
Yeah.
And so me living the life I live, I can't really just go out and stay high all the time.
Yeah.
I just can't do that. So, like,
nor do you want to.
Right.
No.
And so a lot of times I got to humble myself. It's like, I can't be Superman and do things that I want to do all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to take it easy. It's just what it is. What it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I get by, and I've made peace with that.
You just wait till you get to be 60 years old.
No, thank you.
And then
That's
you
what my dad always tells me. He's like, wait till you think you hurt now. Wait till you're my age.
And I think that's where we have to get to with the medicinal side of this.
That's a good point.
It's you have options. Now I'm not saying my pain trumps everyone else's. Like some people's pain is unbearable.
Yeah.
But like I think me humbling myself and just learning this is the new status of my physical life for the unforeseeable future. And that's what I'll have to do.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Well, and the part that I always have wrestled with on the prescription side of things is how many of these things is this a Band-Aid that you could naturally solve.
Right. And also too, though, I was one of the rare people that's like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
Because, most people will take that. They're like, oh, I'm not hurting, but obviously they are, but they're high, and then after that, it's okay. Well, it's only going to work for so long.
That's the problem.
Then you got to take more.
That's exactly right.
Then more.
Yeah.
And man, I can't do it.
Yeah.
That is a merry-go-round that you can't get off.
Yeah.
I completely agree. So
we've answered nothing so far.
but I met someone back in the day who has this whole conundrum figured out. He's totally settled in his theology, and that's Willie Nelson.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Larry Norman.
No, I don't know how Larry Norman felt about it.
Well, Willie's going to be like 200. He's going to make it.
Well,
he is.
Now, I'm not telling stories on Willie Nelson because everybody in the world knows, that Willie.
Willie does what?
Maybe imbibes a little bit in the
Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
thought that man was straight edge. What are you talking about?
But that's the funny thing is he is a genuinely wonderful person.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure. I bet he's happy all the time.
Yeah, he has no anxiety.
Okay, so the first time I'd met Willie Nelson back in the day, but the first time I actually spent any time around him, I was playing with Terry McBride in the Ride, and we were doing a series of festivals. We were both at the same festival.
Yeah.
And Terry knew Willie because they were both from Texas, and Terry's dad, Dale McBride, was very well known in Texas and beyond. So he and Willie bumped, crossed paths, bumped into each other. And anyway, so Willie, that's definitely a passion of his. And apparently,
good job. We worded that well.
Yes.
But I want to use the most favorable language that I can because literally I think so much of Willie because he was so genuinely nice to us. His whole band. I don't know who plays in his band now because there's been a couple of deaths and some things like that. But at this time, his sister was playing piano and organ. His drummer was Paul English, who is a friend of Willie's from kindergarten.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and at some point, the legend goes that Paul English saved Willie's life at some point, like when they were in third or fourth grade. I don't know any more details.
Yeah.
And so Willie says, when I do what I'm going to do, you're always going to be with me.
And he held to it.
Yes, he did.
How good of a piano player was Willie's sister?
She was great.
Pat's asking the hard questions over here.
No, she played.
Could she find the pocket?
Well, I was wondering just because I know Peter does the exact same thing I do when I see other people play guitar. Yeah. I'm like, good job. I'm there to hear them, but I'm also judging them. Yeah. I'm also like, I would have done it.
But the most interesting thing about Willie's band is, the level of musicianship at every position is just irrelevant because they come together and they make this combination. They make this particular sound that no other band makes. Right. It's kind of like the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not stellar musicians, but they make this.
Well, everybody's so stoned they don't care.
No, but anyway, Willie's the real deal. And at the time, I don't know if he still does it, but at the time he was running 10 miles a day.
Really?
10 miles a day.
Dang, if he wasn't smoking dope, he'd be running 30.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe if he wasn't, he probably couldn't get his joints going.
You might be right.
Yeah.
But no, they said when you go onto his bus, I never did, but he's got like a library. It's like this one's from France and this one's from. I mean, it's like exotic. I mean, it's really like he is. You know,
he's very like it's not just a. He's not a weekend toker.
He's a connoisseur.
Yeah.
He's professional.
But so it just kind of causes that little conundrum, you know, because you think, oh, he's just a stoner, he's a pothead. Well, that's not really.
Yeah.
I mean, he would, so
that's just one layer of the guy.
Exactly. And he was so genuinely nice, and I loved being around him. So I'm going to have to go with you guys on probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, probably not a good idea, even if it's illegal. That there's just too many red flags.
Yeah.
Logan said something. It may have been off air before we got on, but he said, "I'm not going to draw a straight line from anything to hell."
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
And I agree with that. Like, I'm not going to say just because someone smokes pot, whether it's a sin or not, good, bad, whatever, that's not a direct line to hell.
Yeah.
No. And like with a lot of these taboos, that's why we're actually addressing a lot of these, is because even if we don't think something's a good idea, it's like, do people who smoke marijuana go directly to hell? No.
Does a man who, like, if you walk into the grocery store and your eye accidentally catches that woman,
Yep.
Like,
apparently you're supposed to gouge your eyes.
Yes. Here's the thing, and I hope you all get on this right here, is if anyone who sinned went to hell, there'd be no one in heaven.
That's right.
There'd be no one in heaven, because
so
every human being sins daily.
Yeah.
It's true. Interesting because one of my favorite books of the Bible is 1 John, and it didn't always used to be that way. It's just been recently. And I heard something by one of my favorite Bible scholars, not Michael Heifer.
What?
This is a guy, honestly.
New blood.
I want to get this guy on as a guest to the show.
Kirk Cameron?
No, his name is Dr. Bob Utley.
Bob Utley. That sounds familiar.
Well, you can go on YouTube. I do all the time. Back in like the 70s or 80s, he was a professor at a pretty big time seminary.
Yeah.
And he did this series of video commentaries, which was very revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, and say back in the 80s, man.
And it was just him sitting in a wicker chair wearing very dated clothes.
Yeah. He's the flannel shirt guy. He's the old farmer looking guy.
Yeah, but
he looks awesome.
Yeah, the videos that I watch are from a lot earlier. So if you were to and he did like the whole Bible.
You talking about this again?
That's it.
What's he wearing? What's he got on?
It's like the Christian Mr. Rogers.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't look near as cool as the flannel.
Won't you be my Christian?
But one thing I learned from him the other day is that he believes, and now I believe, that 1 John was written before the Gospel of John.
Really?
Yeah, that this was 1 John was like this letter he sent off, and then that kind of was the precursor as he was formulating his whole gospel.
Yeah.
And it makes a whole lot of sense.
It does make sense, because the Gospel of John, we know, was written well into John's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
ministry.
it was the last one in, for sure. Yeah, we know that.
That makes sense.
Anyway, there's I don't know all the Greek words because I don't have it in front of me, but he does say something about if someone keeps on sinning. So does that mean habitual sin? Does that mean a sin that you just can't get over? Does that mean, being psychologically addicted to marijuana? Does that send you to hell?
Yeah.
Because he says, honestly, he's not walking in the light. The truth is not in him. He's deceiving himself. I don't remember all the right language, but it's a bad thing to John.
Yeah.
If someone keeps on sinning. With a lot of these taboos, I mean, what do you think that means, Pat? I mean, you say, okay, someone sins and they don't go right to hell. Well, what if they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again?
Right.
Even if they got the right intentions, are they going to hell anyway?
Because are you even repenting?
Well, I think confession and repentance plays a big part in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do, because the scripture also says the Lord is bountiful in forgiveness.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
he will forgive over and over and
Absolutely.
over again. I think the way this is me personally, I think the way John's putting it is if you keep on sinning, but act like it's no big deal. Act like, well, yeah, I do that, so whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I think. I think you're exactly right, but I also think keep on sinning goes once again back to your the state of your heart. So
Yeah.
the fact that you keep on sinning, you're living a life of sin. He's not talking about committing the same sin over and over again, because even Paul said, "I got this thorn in my flesh, this thing that I can't master."
yeah.
Okay, so he's talking about the outward results of what is inside of your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the works that you do are sinful, and so you just keep on sinning, like you're hell bent.
Yeah.
Then I think that's exactly accurate.
So if you're like about to smoke a doobie,
Yeah.
and you're like, God forgive me, and you smoke it, and then the next day you're like, God forgive me, and
Yeah.
you smoke another one.
Oh, if you're about to smoke your 7th of the day,
Yeah. You're a little like, God
honestly,
forgive me. Yeah.
honestly, if you are truly repenting,
Yeah.
then God says, yes, I will forgive you.
Yeah.
He's faithful and just is what it
Yeah.
says. That's what we said Sunday.
And
Yeah.
we do know that any sin, not every sin, but some sin is out of our control. You know, there's no way any of us could just stop sinning.
No.
Oh yeah. No.
It's just like some sin is just out of our control.
There is
'Cause we're-
only one
'cause-
perfect being.
well,
that was
because
ever
we're
here.
human.
Yeah.
You know, we're human.
Yeah.
And I think we shouldn't add to that purposely.
Yeah.
You know, we shouldn't just go, all right, I'm already a jacked up human being, so let me throw this on as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Struggle with lust. I might as well smoke a joint.
Yeah, and that's where we justify our actions because of the sin. Well,
Yeah.
I already do this, and I can't be sin free. So what's one more?
Yeah.
That's the wrong mindset to have.
Yes, it really is. So if we feel this way about marijuana, and it's clear that we're not going to get very dogmatic about this
No,
particular
not at all.
subject, because there's still more to be learned about this, I
Yeah.
think. But
Yeah.
I think we can draw a line of difference between the way that the Bible kind of treats alcohol and the way it would treat something like something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it.
Well, and I think the community issue really is the vocabulary around it. Think about it, just like the way you were talking about Willie Nelson. You said he's passionate.
Yeah.
And if we were to say, well, Pat's addicted, Willie Nelson is passionate.
Yeah.
So, you know, automatically people are going to look at Pat in a negative light. They're going to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
They're like, Pat's a junkie, but Willie, he's
Willie's
just a connoisseur, man.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean. Like, it's the vocabulary. And us as the modern church, we have to get over this vernacular.
Yeah.
Words
Yeah.
are words. Let's get to the intention. Let's get
Yeah.
to the purpose, what we're really talking
You know
about.
what? When we're trying to figure these things out, if we don't lead with compassion and
Yeah.
mercy and grace, then we're not like Jesus at all. At all.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
7.
We, because we talked about the beer and Bibles thing.
Yeah, right.
So could you do a joint and like joint and John? I'm going to break down the book of John. Have a
Joints for
gathering.
Jesus?
Yeah, joints for Jesus.
There you go.
Could you do that?
Joints in Jerusalem. Yeah, exactly.
You'd have to do communion every time.
Yeah.
And you'd have to have these big,
Yeah,
huge
Hawaiian
pieces of bread.
rolls, yeah.
Exactly.
See, and it's funny, but like I do at the same time, I think like I have good friends that like to smoke cigars
Yeah.
and smoke pipes.
Yeah.
And I know some that smoke pipes that are huge, very strong Christians.
Uh-huh.
And they'll gather with their little buddy Christians and
I
they'll
know.
all try out their new tobacco pipe and they'll smoke their little fancy pipes and then they discuss the word.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think about that. But like, I just can't imagine smoking a joint and then diving in that. And I'm not saying every activity that you would partake in has to be something, well, could I do this in a group setting
Yeah.
and talk about
Yeah.
Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that obviously I'm not going to do that are not wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Pornhub and Peter. chapter 5.
yeah.
It doesn't go together.
How about this? Let's reverse it. Bringing Jesus into anything we do is wise.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that everything we do is wise.
Yeah.
It's true.
Let's spin it that way.
Okay, so
Yeah.
one of my old youth pastors, Randy Rowland, used to tell us this. He said, first of all, you remember we talked last week about if your heart convicts you of it, it's sin.
Yeah.
So you have to listen to the way the Holy Spirit's talking to you inside.
Yeah.
But he always says, you know how we pray to bless our food? Lord, will you please bless this meal I'm about to partake of? Okay. So he said, if you're wondering about something, whether it's good or bad to do or right or wrong, ask the Lord to bless it first. Oh, Lord, bless this gummy that I'm about to receive.
Yeah. Bless this joint.
Lord, bless this line of blow.
I mean, and I always kind of remembered that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that actually is. It's not a bad barometer.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe people shooting up, they're saying some blessings. Don't let it be a dirty needle.
Oh, that's that's a prayer of desperation right there.
Right.
Okay, so what about things like mushrooms?
Well, that's what,
because those are clearly plants.
Yeah,
too.
that's Logan's department. He's the big shroom guy.
That's right.
I've seen them because they grow out here. That's what I found.
Don't broadcast that.
Well, we've actually ran people out of here with like grocery bags.
Really?
My dad has ran people out of the field picking shrooms. They picked these shrooms out of cow crap. Like,
you see, now I feel like that would be the definition of
a sin,
of really bad addiction. If you're willing to go find, handle, and go through manure
and consume
and then eat it. That's desperation.
I figured it out. I was actually checking fences one day, and it was a big pile of cow crap, and there was a bundle of mushrooms growing out of it. And that's what and I think I told my dad, and he's like, that's what them dang, junkies get, and we got to run them out of here. And they're psilocybin or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah.
But speaking of mushrooms, this is perfect that you asked me this, because there's a book I was telling Pat about before Brother Peter got here, and they have this idea about Jesus. The name of the book is the Sacred Mushroom and the Cross.
Oh,
have you heard of this? Have you read this in your theological studies?
Yeah, I think that's in 3rd Ezekiel.
Yeah. Well,
Sacred mushroom. Okay.
Apparently, the premise of this is Jesus did not exist. Jesus was a mushroom.
Oh, okay.
The disciples ate mushrooms, and they manifested Jesus through the psychedelic trip of the mushroom. And that is kind of from my brief study of this book earlier today, that was what I came across. But I would say, if we're on the fence with marijuana, to me, it's without question that when you get to psychedelics,
we talked about this off air. I know what runs through my mind randomly, and with not being able to control it and it manifesting like I think it's real, that's terrifying.
That is horrifying.
That concept sounds like it was written by somebody who does mushrooms.
It does.
You know what?
Book?
Like if Logan, if you did it now, you know what you'd see? A cockatrice.
I would.
You would see a cockatrice.
It has been opened up in my mind now. Yeah, the book was written in the 70s, so it's a good chance.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into psychedelics.
All right.
I brought some.
Excellent.
This episode is going to take a severe turn.
Yes.
You never hit record, man.
We've been recording this whole time.
So I was born in 1963.
All right.
So by the time I was, 10 years old, 12 years old, man, we heard all the stories about those hippies and those rock musicians that were doing LSD.
Were you jamming the Beatles?
You
probably weren't.
I was not.
He was a Zeppelin era.
See, we weren't allowed to listen to any secular music until Dad, close your ears, please. I don't even know if he knows I did that.
Oh gosh.
So I was in the 5th grade, and we had these little contests at school.
Yeah.
And I won this contest, and so the prize for the contest was a 45.
Yeah.
You've seen 45.
Oh yeah.
Okay. It was a 3 Dog Night singing the Locomotion.
Nice. Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
That's terrible satanic music.
But I knew that I was not going to be able to keep it if I brought it home and showed my mom and dad. So
you hid it in your locker.
I hid it in my coat, and I took it home, and I put it in my underwear drawer. And when everybody was gone, me and my brother would put this on the
Jams
record
$3.
play. Oh man, it was like, come on, baby, dude, you know. And then I was found out.
Oh man,
My mom found out. She was good at finding out everything.
Yep, that's how it went in my house.
You turned 17 in 1980.
Yeah, that's when I graduated high school.
So right in your formative years, right after high school, it was really like a big cocaine scene.
Oh, yes,
yeah, that was
absolutely.
the height of the cocaine era.
I never actually did cocaine at all. Never smoked marijuana.
But it was everywhere, though. Yeah.
But there was I remember we used to play this one nightclub called Stuart Anderson's Black Angus.
I love the
There's
name.
a whole chain of them,
Yeah.
steakhouses, and they all had a big showroom in them with a stage and everything. We used to play there regularly. I remember this one Black Angus. We would finish, and all the bar staff would get together and sit around, and they would have this giant jar of cocaine, and they would take their keys.
Scoop
And
it
they
out.
scoop it out with the keys.
Oh
Get a little
Lord,
bump.
man!
And I'm sitting there watching, going, how do
You're
you
just like, what?
how do you have a brain
Yeah.
left? I mean,
Yeah.
they would get wired, man. Ooh,
That's
it was
crazy.
Whoa,
Man,
And-
Isn't it weird though how certain drugs like kind of take over the decade?
it's true.
Yeah.
And it was cocaine all day long.
The
I
80s
mean,
was a cocaine scene.
see what was the 70s? Was that not
70s,
marijuana?
Yes, weed all day long.
Because when did Black Sabbath put out Sweet Leaf? Was that
That
in the
was the
70s?
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
You know,
And that was when Bob Marley came
Yeah.
to prominence.
Yeah.
And what's funny is the 60s was the psychedelic era.
I know. That's the thing.
Then you
that
get to
was
the 70s, these people are like, all right,
Yeah,
guys,
that's
get a
going
little
a little too far.
crazy. Let's dial it back a little bit.
and you had heroin lurking in the background the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
The whole time. And heroin made a bigger resurgence
90s.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
I feel
that was the
like
big
we
deal.
are in the fentanyl stage.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
and
For sure.
and honestly,
Opioids.
I mean, again, I don't know. I know heroin was really dangerous, and I mean, we ran through the meth stage, but to me, this fentanyl stage probably is the most dangerous.
Look, man,
Completely.
I tell you how oblivious I was when I was still in the Army and I was coming home visiting. I have a cousin who's on the sheriff's department, and I was just kind of messing with him. I was like, "What do you do? Ride around busting kids, smoking pot, drinking beer?" He goes, "Man," pot's everywhere. He's like,
Yeah.
"Pot's not really that big of a deal." He goes, "Dude, cocaine's not even that big of a deal anymore." He goes, "There's heroin and fentanyl."
Yes.
And I was like, "Here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like here?"
For
He's
sure.
like, "Everywhere."
Yep.
He said, "It's everywhere." It blew my mind.
Yep.
That was one of the weirdest things. I've never seen it, thankfully, but a lot of farmers, a lot of times their kids got into meth.
For sure.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot of it was one because we had access to like
Chemicals.
certain chemicals that
For
they
sure.
would use, which when you hear the chemicals they use, I'm like,
Terrible.
what in
Oh.
heaven's name, man? Like
It's pure poison.
it is.
Poison.
They're poisoning
I know.
themselves.
I
Like,
know.
but the psychedelic stuff, like to me, it sounds crazy, but the thing that I don't necessarily wrestle with, the thing I kind of bring myself back to is I have a good friend that he really believes in psychedelic for like treatments, but then I've also even listened to a few guys share on some other podcasts I listen to, their testimony is actually linked to them doing like an ayahuasca trip or this thing where they said they encountered Jesus in the trip.
Hey,
So
I've heard several testimonies.
they
like
claim they came to faith that way.
I've listened to several interviews that way.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, every one of these interviews will say, "Yeah, I was on some sort of psychedelic trip, and I came to faith in Christ." Don't ever try it that way.
Yes.
I mean, really, every one of them is cautioned. Even though that happened to me,
Yeah.
don't go seeking spirituality that way.
And as funny as Jesus always tell them, stop living your life this way. You're
that's
going
true.
to die.
It's true.
Why do they always get naked? I was listening to one earlier, and the guy was saying that he saw Jesus's face in a rock. Like he
Okay.
said, a waterfall was coming down, and he said he turns and he looks, and he said, and I see Jesus's face, and in the water's running around his face, and it's in this rock. And he said, I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, that's Jesus. And he said, so I look away because he said, I'm thinking, all right, I'm just tripping. And he said, then I look back and he's still staring at me. And so he's like, so it's Jesus. And he said, I looked at this thing for a long time, which he also is like, I have no concept of time when I'm in this zone. But he said, so then he's like, so I'm out in the wilderness. He said, so I go back to the cabin. He said, I take a shower. And he's like, my mind is so crazy over it. He said, so I decided to take 3 more grams of whatever he took. And he said, I took it. And he said, and then I got naked and I went on a hike back. And I'm just always like, why are you always going to get naked?
That's what happens. I don't know. I've heard the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. So we generally, like in the 70s and 60s, acid, LSD, all these things, mushrooms, bad idea. Sinful. I mean, that's a hard no.
Yeah. And just the interjection here, if we want to talk about what the government deems good versus the Lord, the government used LSD on Vietnam veterans.
That's true.
Yeah.
The MK Ultra.
Yeah.
That's declassified now. That's public knowledge.
Right.
Well, wasn't there amphetamines in the GWAT?
I don't know. I didn't serve in the 20th century.
Well, no. The I guess in desert, didn't they not have like amphetamine, like speed for soldiers? I always heard there was a little yellow pill that in like even Iraq and Afghanistan, guys could take this little yellow pill and it was basically speed.
No, we had monsters and energy drinks.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
we did have cases and cases of energy drinks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Is that part of your retirement package?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's so much that people, when they find Rippets in the store, they send me pictures of them.
Oh, for sure.
I see a Rippet now and I equate it to you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. I think you should be a national spokesperson.
Right? I can do it.
I know you
I don't
could.
think I'd ever heard of them actually until you came in here with
You hear
them.
that, Rippet? You can sponsor our podcast.
Exactly. This episode sponsored by
Rippet.
Rip-It.
That fits the Reverent Rebellion.
Yes, it does.
So what do you think?
Okay.
Psychedelics.
Well, this is the weird thing about it.
Are they seeing Jesus?
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Because I think it's possible that, just like, okay, so Saul is on the road to Damascus to kill Christians.
Yeah.
He gets intercepted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he hears the voice that he knows is Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus does not announce himself ahead of time. And he says, I mean, the legend says he falls off his donkey, but it doesn't really say that. but this blinding light.
Yeah.
And his friends, they're like unconscious or something like that. Okay, so and Jesus says, Saul, why are you persecuting me?
Yeah.
And Saul's like, I ain't persecuting you. I'm persecuting Christians. Like, if you're persecuting them, you're persecuting me. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jesus intercepts Saul.
Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely possible that Jesus could intercept somebody, especially
When they're vulnerable like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point of this whole psychedelic thing is I think that when you intentionally open this part of your mind.
You think that can tie into the out of body experience?
I think that it does. I think it does because what we're doing is we're overstimulating certain parts of our brain that operate in that sphere. You know, that operate in imagination, and that this is where a lot of hallucinations come from. But hallucinations are real to the person that's experiencing them. So how real can it be? I don't know, but I don't put it past Jesus to intercept anybody at any time.
Right.
Now, and if they're putting themselves, because I mean, they're putting themselves in I guess a spiritually vulnerable position.
I think, well, okay, let's put it this way though. Now the big fad right now is this psychedelic assisted psychotherapy.
Yeah.
You can go to various, licensed and certified psychiatrists.
Yeah.
And they can administer in a controlled environment these different levels of psychedelic drugs.
Yeah.
And they sort of have prompts that they walk you through. And there are people who, I mean, my life has dramatically changed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not smoking anymore. I'm not
I don't have
anxious
PTSD anymore. You see some crazy stuff.
And they, there's this guy named Roland Griffiths who's been doing this since the 70s. And he says that he has been sort of refining his techniques over all this time. I don't know if I want to be on his practice squad, way back in the day. But it's interesting because It says when he first started studying psychedelic therapies, he was actually quite alarmed. He had never come across such consistently ardent descriptions of a drug experience. People would often describe a profound sense of awe or love or connectedness to the people in the world around them. But it wasn't just the descriptions, it was the persistence of the memory.
Yeah.
This is where it kind of gets
like
interesting.
where they hold it afterwards.
Yes, people would compare it to things like the birth of their first child or the death of a parent. Something like you always remember where you were when that happened.
Something significant.
Right, exactly. He says if you give someone a high dose of alcohol or Valium or cocaine, they might remember some of the details like the rush of pleasure, the lowering of inhibitions, and perhaps some behavior that is outside the norm for them.
Yeah.
But the memories of that experience and certainly the meaning of it get cloudy very quickly, and it certainly doesn't inform major life decisions.
Yeah.
So he goes on to talk about the people who claim to have the most meaningful and memorable experience on psilocybin were likely the ones who could break their addictions and stay away from the substance they were addicted to, especially tobacco. There are some kinds of, it's so interesting. They say that part of this mystical experience includes a sense of unity, a sense of sacredness, not necessarily religious sacredness, but the overwhelming sense, they say, of preciousness about an experience. And then what he calls a noetic sense, a deep feeling that the experience is authoritatively true. For some people, it feels more true than normal waking consciousness. Okay. Yeah. And he goes on to...
well, the guy that I was actually telling you about that did, said he saw Jesus's face, he actually... apparently he has a very successful podcast, and he's a veteran, and he said that he's wanted to do a nonprofit. He said, this is something I've wanted to do. And he said, while he was on this trip, he said, I had the most vivid revelation of what my nonprofit would be. And he said, I literally planned every bit of the nonprofit out, from who was going to be in it, what it's going to be tailored to. He said all the specifics, and he was like, and now that's my plan. He was and he remembers that.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something versus alcohol. Yeah. I mean, you drink enough alcohol, you ain't going to remember what you did.
I can testify.
I might plan a nonprofit, but I won't be able to tell you about it later. So that is really interesting how it is burned into, and the people that I've talked to that have done these trips, they can very descriptively tell you what they experienced.
Yep.
It's wild.
So how do you, I almost see, to me, then I'm like, all right, how do you separate reality from that?
Well, this is the problem because, of course, there are some, anytime you sort of mine the depths of your brain or stimulate parts, it's going to have a profound effect on you.
Yeah.
And I imagine that there's parts of your brain that will be stimulated that have to do with your cognitive abilities or enhanced sharpening of problem solving skills and things like that. But here's something that he says. There's a little bit of a caution here. Now, this guy is all about psychedelics. He wants everybody to do this. Okay?
Everybody, shrooms for everybody.
Yes, but he says it's important to keep in mind that correlation is not causation. Just because the sky is blue when you sneeze doesn't mean the blue sky caused your sneeze, nor did your sneeze cause the blue sky.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So just because your psychedelic experience felt memorable or meaningful doesn't mean those particular qualities of the experience are what made you get better.
Yeah.
So it says that's certainly the view of some scientists who think psychedelics simply change the physical brain. They say that anything mystical or anything insightful could just be interesting side effects from poking around in your brain.
It's just a byproduct.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could be overthinking it. If you chop the head off of a snake in your dream or your trip and come out and you're like, that was me conquering my fears. I'm saved.
You're just tripping, my man.
Yes.
You could actually be right. But we do know about neuroplasticity?
No.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I was today years old when I heard that.
Your brain flexible?
This kind of, sort of. The thing is, and they learned this by studying like stroke victims, people who've had some sort of, brain tumor, something like that. They have inhibited functions in certain things. So they discovered that through repetition and through intention, that you can actually create new neural pathways in your brain.
Like get neurons firing and everything?
Uh-huh.
So like if somebody lost the use in their right arm from a stroke, like they could almost create a new way to move their arm?
It's limited, but mostly it has to do with habits and mental sort of capacity that you can. It's almost like, when you break a habit, you have created new neural pathways in your brain.
Yeah.
Because you have neuroplasticity. Your brain can actually bend and conform to that.
Okay.
And then it will be like a new instinct for you.
That's
Makes
interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so what some are suggesting is that these kinds of psychedelic experiences are actually creating little neural pathways to parts of your brain that may have been either understimulated or underdeveloped. And so, so all that to say,
there's some people going around giving LSD to stroke victims.
Well, no, they're not. Actually, that might not work out well.
Yeah.
But they do say that ultimately you'll have psychedelics for home use, and you can
Man, that sounds terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Put them in your CPAP at night. I don't know.
Yeah.
Peter calls me at midnight. Washington won. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it wasn't the Washington Huskies. It was the Washington Tabby Cats. They won.
The cockatrices.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but here is here I think is the danger. Okay, and that is number one, that I got this other article here written by a former this guy calls him, he says, I was an ex-Christian.
Yep.
He had renounced the whole thing. Then he got into psychedelics and was totally infatuated with it, amazed at what it could do.
Then he saw hell.
And then, some things started to go wrong.
Well,
for him.
that's kind of what I was alluding to. If it makes you spiritually vulnerable, it goes all back to what we've talked about several times, is don't open the door for the demonic spirits or these bad spirits. Like, you're playing with fire. I mean,
there's that old tried and true expression, and I believe it. If you knock on the devil's door long enough, he will answer.
Yeah.
Well,
and I wish I had actually looked. There's quite a few people. Isn't it people that have tripped that have seen the man in the hat?
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about the Hat Man?
Yeah, the Hat Man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that's pretty common amongst people that have done psychedelics.
So he says that one recent study that he just read showed that beyond the immediate effects, these compounds can cause prolonged debilitations that can sometimes last months or years.
Nice.
It's messing with the brain.
Yeah.
So if it messes with it in the wrong way, it lasts a long time.
Yeah.
And here's another key thing. He got into psychedelics after he became an ex-Christian. He wanted to, he said, I promoted the healing potential of psychedelics, but I was more interested in their spiritual power.
Yeah.
He was looking for something that would outdo what he just left.
Yeah.
So he gets into, it's a really good article to read, but he gets into kind of the motivation behind the pursuit of this stuff. That is not just, I got to quit smoking.
Yeah.
You know, or
there's a void there. You got to fill.
That there is a spiritual kind of impetus behind it.
Yeah.
And
isn't that what led to the Jesus revolution, though? In the hippie culture?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it was all kind of related.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I don't think any of them would say, psychedelics caused this whole revival.
Well, I remember when that movie came out and I was doing research in it, that they were saying that everyone was looking for something spiritual and they thought LSD would be the answer, and it didn't do
That's
it.
exactly right.
Gotcha.
Here's an interesting thing that John Calvin said.
Oh, man.
I don't quote Calvin very often.
Yeah.
But this is absolutely true. He says, humans are idol-making machines.
Fact.
And psychedelic experiences can create fertile ground for our idolatrous tendencies. He didn't say that part.
Yeah.
He didn't know about psychedelics.
Yeah.
a psychedelic trip can feel so profound, there's a tremendous risk of making idols out of our own spiritual experiences. Listen to this. There is a particular danger in engineered environments, such as an underground psychedelic religious ceremony, where some clergy regularly administer the Eucharist, communion, while under the influence, believing they are saving Christianity from itself in the process.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes on. I love this. Well, I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to read this whole quote. I think some of it's gone. But he talks about the ancient, or not ancient, this Catholic monk, Thomas Merton, wrote some really cool stuff. Phenomenon called Illuminism, attaching an exclusive importance to what we ourselves experience. You know, it's like, it's kind of like people that go from spiritual conference to spiritual conference just looking for that high, that spiritual high.
Yeah.
And they come back and the only report that they bring is what kind of spiritual high they got. It was so good. The worship was so good. The speakers were so good, and it made me feel so good. Illuminism.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that Merton says. He says, the notion that we can reliably produce an encounter with God by ourselves. We can force it. We can make it happen.
That is essentially what they were trying to do with the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now we're doing it with psychedelics.
Yeah.
And he also goes into the whole, you are opening yourself up to, Satan often masquerades as an angel of light.
Yeah.
And so it's possible to kind of get your way in and say, oh, it was so spiritual. It was so
bright.
And
so
then
bright.
It turns on you in an instant. And you're in terror for who knows how long until it wears off.
Yeah, and I think we've really harped on that before. Sin's supposed to look beautiful, enticing, and lovely, and the best thing since pockets. It's supposed to look amazing.
Yeah.
That's how the devil's not going to show up in a red suit with horns and a pitchfork and go, do this so you can go to hell. And everyone's like, yeah, I'll give in to that.
Okay, but
that's not how it works.
Listen to this. This is the coolest part of this article. He says, I don't want to deny anyone who might find physical healing in psychedelics, but it's important to note that the Bible teaches that healing can be made into an idol. You ever thought of that?
No, I haven't.
That's
but
I hadn't thought of that either. But then he brings out, this is my Bible nerd thing coming out. You remember that that God told Moses to put up a bronze serpent, right? And it was a divinely ordained method of healing Israelites who were afflicted with sickness. Numbers 21. Okay. But we see later on, King Hezekiah does what is right in the Lord's eyes by smashing the serpent into pieces in 2 Kings. So Moses is told to put it up. Hezekiah is told to smash it down.
Yeah.
Why? Because the Israelites began burning incense before it. Them Israelites will start burning incense before anything.
They will.
I mean, if they were alive today and from those ancient times, they would burn incense with the golden arches.
Yes.
I mean, it's like,
I can see that too, because even the Lord's gifts can turn into an idol.
Yes.
We want the gifts, not the giver.
That's exactly right.
Yes. Because that's a dangerous slope. I feel like we all fall into that at some point unless we check ourselves.
And here is another factor about this. This is something that I encountered listening to another podcast of some guest that was talking about our need for adversity and testing and trial and all those kinds of things. We have this idea in our society today, especially in America, that we are never supposed to experience discomfort.
Yeah.
That if we're experiencing discomfort, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And we need to fix it immediately.
Yeah.
We have made an idol out of our own
comfort,
satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, these people, are hungry for hope and for healing. They're desperate for solutions to their problems because they don't think they're supposed to have their problems.
Right.
And so they find it in this psychedelic kind of environment.
Well,
and then they go,
self-help is like, isn't that like the most selling books and everything now?
Everybody wants the victory without the battle.
Yeah.
Just victory to victory. And it doesn't work that way.
They want salvation without the Savior, the kingdom without the King.
Yep.
I think about one guy in particular comes to my mind, and he's he was a really cool guy. He was actually a sniper in the Marine Corps, and he got into the ayahuasca stuff really big, and he apparently did like, I don't know, multiple trips, because he was the first person I ever saw like post about it. He put it up on Instagram like afterwards, some pictures from it, and it was over, I think they were like overseas somewhere, like, you know, it would look like a tribal ceremony. Mm-hmm. And he did this several times, and I've got some buddies that are really in his kind of inner circle, and they were talking about how at this point he's not even the same guy anymore. Like they said, it has completely changed him. Like he's not, he acts nothing like he did beforehand. And they said it's caused like, I don't know if he was married, but they said it caused like a lot of relationship problems. But he's like, now he's healed.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Now he's totally non-functional.
Yes.
And not good for anything to anybody.
Yeah. Like he's.
Yeah. That was part of this guy's article too, is that he knows that his experiences of being heavily involved with this until he came back to faith in Christ. He knows that he's not the same person that he was before, in maybe some good ways, but not all in good ways.
Yeah.
There are long lasting effects because it's the neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
You done made some trails where you should not have made some trails.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Look, man, all of my buddies that I, went to war with, when we got back, every one of us had our struggle.
Yeah.
Whether it's booze, I have friends that smoke pot, things like that. And we all went through that spill. And now everyone gave that stuff up.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, they still drink and things like that, but nowhere near the level, And when I went and visited with my buddies, on New Year's, it opened my eyes a lot. Like, no one got drunk, no one got stupid, but we still had a great time.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, there are some guys that I deployed with that are no longer with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One's heroin, one was pills, and they were seeking health, and they looked for it in substances.
Yeah.
And then it ultimately took their lives.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to say their names on air, but, they left behind wives, kids, things like that.
Yeah.
And, and it's crazy, man. It is. And I firmly believe it's because, just like we were saying earlier, people are looking for a savior.
Yeah.
But they don't know where to look.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. And oftentimes we're looking for healing, but we don't want a healer to be involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then that's
myself.
a person that we have to submit to or surrender to.
And also, too, if you are not a church person and, you're just kind of outside looking in, please don't ever judge God based upon us.
Yeah.
Never judge the goodness of God based off man.
Yeah, we will let you down.
We will let you down. 100%.
It's weird to me to think about. I almost feel like some people are more apt to go trust a tribal shaman
For sure.
over their like local pastor.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
And there's good reason for that. We have not given them a lot of good reasons to trust institutions and pastors. And, we've often, like Pat and I have talked about, we in church world, we've often told people more what we're against than what we're for.
Yeah.
And this is what I think the church needs to change moving forward. I think that our church needs to change that way and continue to pursue that. I think the church next door does. I think the church down the street does.
Just like you said, it's a continual thing too. Yeah. It's not a we arrived, because that's where we get that comfortable spot. And unfortunately for the church, I don't care if it's something that happens in Australia, like with Hillsong, or something in New York. The entirety of the church takes on that.
It hurts. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The entirety of the church takes on that.
But for every high profile scandal or fall from grace, there are 450 obscure churches that are really trying to do the right thing.
There's a giant move of God going on.
Yeah. And we're not gonna make the headlines at Holly Grove Church in Brighton, Tennessee.
It doesn't matter if we do or not, though.
It does not,
because God's still doing His thing.
We're part of the kingdom. We're part of.
And you can say this as well. I know for a fact you can, just to see what God does, and even on the small things on Sunday. It's
completely.
Still amazing. It's still amazing.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
Yeah.
So I want to spend just a few more minutes taking this whole concept the mind altering, the pseudo spiritual, messing around with the brain, neuroplasticity thing, and I want to morph that into one concept that sort of is an umbrella over all of this.
Yeah,
and this is a phenomenon today called biohacking.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you had told me about this before we got on the show. Instruct me how to Douglas, because I was today years old when I knew this was a thing.
it's a big thing in the podcast realm.
Sure, it is. Yeah.
Ben Greenfield, man, I've listened to him talk about biohacking for years now.
Maybe I just tuned it out. I don't know. But
This is it really kind of comes down to optimizing your body, optimizing your brain,
Yeah.
okay.
taking it to a level that is that you can't achieve under your own strength.
Okay, so it's kind of like the music theory cheat sheet. It's like it's not this many hours a day. It's retraining your brain to think this way.
That's right. That's right.
Learn the fretboard.
Okay, here's
Liar.
this is their propaganda website. Okay.
Okay.
This, if you go on this website, they're going to tell you why this is the best thing you could ever do for yourself. Okay. So it says, in the most basic sense, biohacking is the practice of human optimization. Who wouldn't want that, Logan?
Yeah.
I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Bionic
know
man
what?
without the bionics.
On its podcast,
Yeah.
they've talked about this, and their podcast is total human optimization.
There you go. There
Makes
you go.
sense.
Yep.
Okay, so it's conducted by individuals seeking to be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Which by nature then says that none of us are seeking to be the best versions of
Because
ourselves.
we're not biohacking.
That's it. Okay, so then it goes on to list all of the ways that you do this. You
Saying
can-
it sounds really good.
I know it does.
Like-
It does.
Like list what you're, the things you're
Okay.
getting better at.
I'm going to get this one last. You can do it through meditation,
Okay.
philosophical ideas like Stoicism.
What is that?
That's where you.
Marcus Aurelius, man.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's-
Everything is what is it? It's kind of everything is a challenge, isn't it? Kind of
Yeah.
stoic mentality.
Okay, gotcha.
social practices like gratitude, exercises, postural techniques, sleep optimization, herbal and nutritional supplementation, and this thing that we're going to talk about in a second called nootropics.
Yeah.
Nootropics. N-O-O tropics. Nootropics. Okay. So a few examples of cutting edge biohacking techniques include hyperbaric chambers,
Yeah.
intravenous nutrition, Pat. Nootropics. Here's genetic profiling. You ever interested in that?
No.
Yeah, genetic profiling. You can get to know your DNA.
Wait, is this like the 23andMe? Like the
Kind of. Yeah. You
like
send off your
Ancestry.com
spit.
and stuff?
Yep, send off your spit. That's exactly what you do. It says our genes are the blueprint for our bodily functions. Every protein, cell, membrane, and hormone is designed in the cell, accidentally probably, by chance. No, it doesn't say that. From a recipe.
Some explosion happened.
Exactly. From a recipe located in the gene. Think of it as a recipe book that we reference every time we need to build a protein or new cell. The field of human genetics has advanced to a point where we can identify particular patterns in our DNA. This allows us to determine our genetic strengths and weaknesses. For example, there are some gene combinations that determine how we metabolize fats or caffeine. Others are useful determining our risk of developing illnesses like cardiovascular disease, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, celiac disease. The idea is to get to know your DNA so that you can discover your tendencies, so you can use these biohacking techniques to sort of reverse tendencies or to head them off at the pass. And 23andMe is one of the companies that does that. Okay.
Is this kind of what old Chris Hemsworth did in the show Limitless, where he found out that he carries the Alzheimer's trait?
I don't know about that.
Because that's what, like, there was something, and they did there's some sort of gene testing.
I haven't seen it in years. Now I got to go back and watch it.
Well, he even took off a few years from acting because of this Alzheimer's discovery.
Wow.
But the thing that kind of gets me a little bit with the biohacking is most of the stuff, because it sounds great. Like if you read this, man, it sounds great. It's like, man, yeah, why would I not want to unleash greater memory and energy and all this? But if you kind of boil it down, a lot of times it's like, well, if you just exercise, eat a little better, and take you can. Man, what a biohack!
Right.
Newsflash.
Yeah.
Okay, so but this let's drill down just for the last few minutes on this nootropics thing.
Yeah.
Okay, these are cognitive enhancers.
Okay.
Yeah. So listen to the way they set this up. At one time or another, everyone has dreamed of becoming more intelligent, learning more things in less time, thinking, reacting faster, and having a better memory.
Sounds wonderful.
There are compounds currently available on the market that promise various combinations of the benefits mentioned above. This group of substances is known as the nootropics. Okay, so
Good name.
Yeah.
they're also known as smart drugs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Everything else is dumb drugs.
There is no uniform approach to categorizing these compounds. Although I will say that there are organic or plant-based, and then there are synthetic.
Okay.
You can, it says, nootropics do not act directly by releasing neurotransmitters or as, I don't know what that word is, but improve the brain supply of glucose and oxygen, anti-hypoxic effects, and protect brain tissue from neurotoxicity. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
They also positively affect neuronal protein and nucleic acid synthesis and stimulate phospholipid metabolism in neurohormonal membranes.
I have no idea what you just said.
You know what this exactly sounds like to me, especially when you got organic and synthetic and what it does on the brain. This is literally steroids for the brain.
Yeah.
Just like we have real testosterone and synthetic steroids, which is synthetic testosterone, we have the same thing that they're pumping into the brain right now.
Yeah, and this is truly hacking, because you're actually making your body and especially your brain do something that it was not designed to do.
Right.
You're giving it nitro fuel.
Right.
Like if you put nitro fuel in a car,
Burn it up.
it'll go really fast for a minute, you know.
Is are these natural? Supposedly, some of them.
There are some natural and there are some synthetic.
It's because it's kind of funny. I mentioned that company on it, the Total Human Optimization.
Yeah.
They sell, and Joe Rogan, if you've listened to much of his, you've probably heard him mention Alpha Brain.
Okay.
And Alpha Brain is supposed to unleash more of your brain abilities.
Wait, so is this stuff legal?
Yes. Well, I don't know about some of that, but I know Alpha Brain is legal.
Yes. They have consumer level stuff you can get without a prescription. Then they have other higher level stuff you have to have a prescription.
How do you get a prescription for that?
Be really dumb.
You just a doctor and say, I want to do this nootropics.
Optimize my brain.
Because the doctor say, him can't read.
Yeah.
Need it.
It says nootropics are usually very well tolerated. Their efficacy depends on the size of the dose, and in practice, administering too low a dose is a common mistake. Okay, and then it says 3 aspects of behavior, such as motor response, verbal performance, and eye opening, are measured independently. So you have to be evaluated.
Yeah.
Side effects of nootropics are uncommon and are rarely serious. An increase in activity in the undesired direction, or a sleep disorder.
What do you mean in the undesired direction?
That means
You dumber.
that they will actually enhance things that enhance your objectionable behavior as well.
So what if you're a jerk?
Then you'll be a really good jerk, a jerky jerk.
Yeah.
A jerky jerk.
Yeah, I mean that's
Stacy, if you're watching this now, I kind of want to try it.
yeah.
So they do sound very much like steroids.
It does. It
It's
sounds like a brain steroid.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Students are using them, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
Thanks to their alleged ability to increase intelligence, improve memory, and cognitive functions, attract the attention of university students in particular. Because most of them are of natural origin, they can obtain them as food supplements or as drugs that do not require a prescription. And they're, of course, like everything, increasingly available on the internet.
Yeah.
All right. However, the use of nootropics by healthy individuals is of great concern due to the lack of clinical evidence regarding their efficacy, safety, and social consequences, especially in long-term use.
Yeah.
Huh.
social consequences.
And I feel like especially students are using them when their mind is developing. That sounds very concerning to me.
Yeah.
It's where they claim your brain is done developing when you're like 25.
So this falls in the what could possibly go wrong category for me.
Yeah, I've seen Planet of the Apes, man. Like,
Yeah.
that's where this is.
And see, okay, so really what we're trying to do here, this comes back to this whole idea that given enough time and money, scientists can make us into
Gods.
anything we want to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. This feels to me like the Tower of Babel.
It does. Well, that's what I had not even thought about that until when I popped and mentioned that it's kind of like the Tower of Babel. Now I'm like, boy, this is like the Tower of Babel.
Maybe this is the last ditch effort for us to keep pace with AI.
It might be. But you think about it. What are we doing with these psychedelics? We're trying to find some spiritual pinnacle, some spiritual experience that'll be transcendent. That's better than anything.
Blow church out of the water. Man.
Exactly. We're gonna
let's call it what it is. They want to watch cartoons without turning the TV on.
Yeah. But the thing is, isn't that what the people at the Tower of Babel were doing?
Yeah.
They were trying to connect with other gods.
Yeah,
have a spiritual experience
and awakening
outside of, or in adjacent to, or apart from this, an experience with the one true God.
Yes.
And then, what did the gods do? The gods came and imparted to them all of this secret knowledge, this previously unaccessible knowledge.
Yeah.
They biohacked them.
Yes. I mean, kind of. I mean, I'm not gonna draw an exact parallel, but you can see. Isn't this just
very similar? Yeah.
That's the way I thought.
Yeah. It's again, this word's come up a lot tonight. It's almost identical intention.
Yeah. What are you going for? What are you trying to do? And this whole self-elevation thing is just, it's like, how are you getting that much done in that little time? Well, I got the secret, I'm doing the nootropics thing. So,
Wouldn't this self-elevation be completely contradictory to the gospel?
It absolutely is. Yes.
Absolutely.
Because when we are weak, he is strong.
Yeah.
My strength is made perfect in your weakness.
Yeah.
So we can elevate ourselves. We can have spiritual experiences profoundly. We can have healing.
Yeah.
We can have comfort. We can have our anxiety taken care of. We can have all these things. And we don't have to go to a psychiatrist to do it.
Yeah. We turn, and that's the thing, I feel like people can take this to the extremes and they could even say, well, like, then I shouldn't, my body, because, I look at the thing, my body's a temple, like, and that's kind of the phrase a lot of people go to.
Yeah, they do.
And like some people would say, well, if all of my reliance is on him and if, weak and strong, then it's like, then I need to be as weak as possible,
and that's not right either.
No, and that's what I'm saying. It's like the what is it? Humble pride or humility, what am I thinking of? Pity, when they pity themselves is actually pride.
Yes.
Yep. And there is such a thing as narcissistic humility.
Yeah.
It's where you pretend to play the humble role, like you always like, oh no, you first.
Yeah.
For that very specific reason. It's when we humble ourselves, it's to elevate other people.
Yeah.
It's to elevate the Lord. It's not to look at us belittle, is to elevate those around us.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're nearing the end here.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to kind of do a chopping block along the path here.
I agree.
So let's start with marijuana. Yay or nay?
I'm going to say a cautious nay.
Yeah.
I do think that that there are certain plants that have medicinal properties, and I think in this case, it's kind of like I'm not gonna just say
no,
it's the evil of the evil.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's probably it's probably a red flag, probably a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll even go one better.
Do it.
If everyone wants the medical benefits of marijuana, they make the marijuana without THC.
Yeah.
Okay.
without the psychoactive ingredients in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Without the high, you get the healthy stuff without the high. So if you're really all about that health, get it without the THC then.
Yeah.
So
And let's see how long that lasts.
you want us to get healthier without getting crazy or having fun?
Yeah. Yeah.
What a killjoy, Pat.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in that little, I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to say smoking pot's going to send you to hell or, it's some kind of evil thing. But at the same time, it's probably not a good idea.
You said it before. You're getting high.
Yeah. That's it. You're getting high.
I'm on board because one of the things that I've seen, and I know this is unpopular or not the cool thing to say, but I remember this from in school. They talked about marijuana was a gateway drug.
Oh, yeah.
And
They used to say that.
one of the things, and now that's so frowned upon. You can't say that.
Say it.
Can't
But
say gateway drug anymore?
No.
You're not supposed to call marijuana a gateway drug at all. And I'll tell you, everybody that I know that uses or has used hard drugs started out by smoking a joint. And so like I do wrestle with that because look, I have drank my share of bourbon. I've never drank a glass of bourbon and been like, I wonder what it'd be like to snort a line. So I go back to the gateway aspect of it as well. I think it's a red flag because I think you're kind of testing the waters and you kind of break that seal a little bit and it gets a little easier to go the next level.
And that being said, please don't feel like you cannot talk to someone.
Oh yeah.
Be open and honest, man. Especially with like us in our community, we're very open. I mean, like, and we're very understanding.
Lord, yeah, we share all kinds of stuff on the show.
Yeah, if maybe they don't want to come to the church and receive, like, then these guys are jacked up.
I know. No, Jesus said there is. Yeah, no, actually, did Paul say it? Anyway, somebody said, no, Jesus said, I didn't come into the world to condemn the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
I came into the world to save the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're told there is therefore now no condemnation.
That's right.
So this is not, these taboos are not about condemning anybody.
Yep.
If you have a different viewpoint about this, I mean, we want to hear about
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Comment that
And
below.
we're, like we said, we don't draw all these straight lines.
Yeah. And if you have done psychedelics
Oh,
or
we want
smoked
to hear
marijuana-
about that.
Oh, yeah, we definitely want to hear the story.
Yeah.
But we're not saying you're going to hell.
No,
Yeah.
not in a million
so,
years.
All right, so then we've done marijuana, psychedelics.
Yeah, I'm going to say a hard no on psychedelics just because I think I think there are other ways to accomplish the same thing, and I think you're taking your spirituality into your own hands. And I'm not saying that nothing good could ever come of this. I just think you're absolutely playing with fire. You could mess yourself up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the be sober minded on this. I've never in my life, and you can't convince me that someone takes a psychedelic and is in control. You know what I mean? No one's gonna tell me, I took some acid and then filed my taxes. I did good. No.
Lord bless these monkeys eating lemon cookies.
Come on, man.
It's like I don't know.
Yeah, that's being out of your mind.
But this is what I think we should close with. The Apostle Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 6:12. He says, I have the right to do anything I want.
Right.
Everything for me is legal. There's no, but not everything is beneficial.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he says, I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we talked about, when does it spill over into addiction?
Yeah.
But when does it spill over into obsession? When does it spill over into, just like an intense habit?
Yeah.
Or something that kind of consumes your attention. That's the problem.
I'll say the clean version of what my dad used to tell me is you have the right to stick your entire hand in your mouth. See where I'm going with that? Doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Does not mean it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of things we can do, but we shouldn't do.
Right.
I was always told if you can't get your rocks off with beer and cigarettes, you don't need it.
It's good.
Isn't that what Paul said just now? It's like, not everything is legal, but not everything is beneficial.
There you go.
That's right.
So, and that's what we're going to leave that with, the whole biohacking thing as well.
Yeah.
Is I think this is bordering on the height of human arrogance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we can make ourselves into a superhuman.
We can be gods.
I'm going to say a hard no on biohacking just for
Yeah.
the fact that it freaks me out, man.
I know.
You don't know the side effects of this.
You don't know the long-term effects of, it's like when you run an engine over its capacity for any length of time.
Something's going to blow.
Eventually.
Something's going to blow, man.
Because you wore down all of the materials that made that engine
and
function.
we might be creating like super Alzheimer's for the future or something.
That's what I'm talking about.
You know,
That's
man.
what I'm talking about.
I'm good. Thank you.
Also, we can get ahead and get a good score on a test and, outdo somebody at sales or something like that.
Try the old thing. Study.
Yeah.
Read.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was a good taboo.
That was
Good. We're gonna tackle something else equally as scintillating next week, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because you have to hit the subscribe button first.
That's right.
There you go.
And hit the bell so that you'll get a notification. Leave us a comment.
And I would even say this next topic is going to change a lot of opinions people had and ruffle some feathers as well.
Just like this one did.
Yep.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue on this journey.
Logan, what's your final word?
Man, that's go read the Sacred Mushroom and the Cross this week.
There you go.
Prepare.
There you go.
No, I mean it's. I think it was really good. Like I said, that was the marijuana one. I was really anxious about. Or just curious. But I've pretty well had my mind made up on the psychedelics.
Take one of them gummies that'll take care of that anxiety.
It will, yeah. It make me really good and anxious.
My final word's going to be everything is not precedent. Okay? Everything that we do does not have a spiritual meaning. Everything spiritual does have a meaning.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to close with be what you is.
Oh.
Because if you ain't what you is what you ain't.
All right, you said that Sunday. Who said that?
Hey, look,
I have no idea. I don't even know.
You know what that reminds me of? Y'all ever watched the Tom and Jerry? Episode where Tom's playing the bass. And is you is.
Yeah.
Is you ain't my baby. That's what that reminds me of.
Love it.
I thought it was Tupac or something you were going to say.
It might be. I have no idea where that came from. I didn't even know how to attribute it to anybody.
Yeah.
It kind of was one of those that came out of the blue.
I like it.
I'm going to track it down and see who actually
Biohacked,
said
man.
it. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
All right, guys, y'all know what to do. Hey, comment below. We would really like to hear from y'all, and I'd really like to hear from y'all on marijuana.
Yeah,
because that is the one I feel like people can really get upset, especially if you are kind of cool with. Yeah, you can have a glass of alcohol, you can smoke a cigarette,
but not
smoke a joint. Like
and
that's
look, and if you're scared of your name being on there, sign out of your YouTube account and comment anonymously.
Yeah,
that's fine.
you can always do that. And coming up in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have all different ways for you to connect with us and communicate with us. We're going to have our own email address and all these kinds of things. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yep. All right, guys, we'll catch you next week.
See you guys later.
Appreciate you.